guys, it's me again, Albert, reading another exciting and dynamic chapter of the greatest bad book ever written, in my opinion, Sharcano. No, you did not hear that wrong. It's not Sharknado. We're not piddling around with sharks in a volcano, okay? I mean, we are piddling around with sharks in a volcano. We're not piddling around with them in a volcano. Tornado is the word I'm looking for. Holy crap, I suck. You know what I'm saying, though. It's different than the movie. It's not maybe better, but it's different. Chapter 2. Father Mackenzie stood open-mouthed in the middle of the 7-Eleven, staring at the TV streaming footage of the Megalodon and the hundreds of other seashores where masses of whales and dolphins and practically every other living thing in the ocean had washed up dead and nearly burnt to a crisp. Seafood. Father, what's wrong? His frayed white hair seemed to stand on end as if he had licked an electrical socket while his synapses fired wildly within his brain pan. Wow. Did that happen because of the milk? Did he just not a very good hairdresser? Did he actually stick his tongue in an electrical socket while his synapses fired wildly in his brain pan? We don't actually get an explanation for this. Apparently he just doesn't have good hairstyle. Whatever. Hey, Father. Yo, you okay? He hadn't blinked his eyes for a solid 5 minutes, and they had grown dry and red. Yeah, I bet they would. 5 minutes without blinking? I mean, it's not... I'm going to do it. I'm going to try to do it. Eyes open? Somebody do a timer or something. Tell me how long I get. Tears were forming in the corners because of it. Can't even read with my eyes open this wide. Running down his face. Father? Snap out of it, huh? He couldn't move. He was processing 1,000 bits of information, filling in blanks to things only he could read. 1,000 bits isn't that much, like a megabit, right? Or a kilobit? Yeah, a kilobit. It's not that big. Brain can probably handle that. Still not blinking. It took all his energy to do so. The rest of his body shut down, allowing the proverbial light bulb to burn over his head. Hey, wake up, bro! Life zapped back into Father Mackenzie, and he blinked his eyes, working his jaws to bring motion to the muscles of his face. He looked around and found himself standing in a puddle of milk. He remembered that he had stopped by for a gallon when the news report came on. He remembered dropping the milk now. I think I blinked. That wasn't 5 minutes. He must have really been into that news report. Not gonna miss that much by blinking. Should I call an ambulance, Father? Said the frightened-looking Indian man standing next to him. Nope, not doing an Indian accent. Definitely not doing that. What? Father Mackenzie asked as his wits slowly returned to him. No, I'm fine, my friend. I'm sorry about the mess. It's okay, but please, let me call someone for you. No, don't be silly. I'm perfectly all right, the priest said as he dug into his pocket. He took out a 20 and handed it to the man. For your trouble. The Indian man took it as Father Mackenzie stepped out of the puddle of milk and headed for the door, realizing that there were more people in the store and that they had been staring at him the whole time. Well, now what's he going to put on his cereal? Right? I mean, like, it probably wasn't just for him, too. Like, the parish, maybe the whole parish needed cereal in the fridge. And now he didn't get it. Why isn't there milk in his hands? Go get another carton! He pounded the gum-plastered sidewalk to the rectory building next to the gorgeous Art Deco-styled church. He pushed the teakwood door open and brushed past the chubby secretary who was hopelessly snacking on rice cakes. Hello, Father, she said between bites of the dry, stale diet staple. Then she noticed the dried milk stains on his black clothing. Father? Are you okay? What's happened to your clothing? Father Mackenzie didn't even spare her a glance as he headed for the stairs and disappeared up to the second floor. He shuffled to his room, lugging the weight of the world, and shut himself in, shooting the door bolt to keep away those pesky intruders. This was his inner sanctum, and it was as sacred as anything. Not that church thing over there, that's not sacred at all. This guy's room, he's got like freaky notebooks and drawings, that's sacred. The problem was that his inner sanctum looked like a serial killer's hideout. There were maps studded with multicolored pushpins, photocopies of Bible passages, and tons of insane scrawling on bits and pieces of paper taped to the walls. He ignored his soaked and smelly clothes and sat on a modest wooden chair that stood waiting for him by a simple, rough-hewn desk. There, a duct-tape notebook was also waiting for him. He opened and flipped through it, searching for something. "The seas will boil. That's right," he whispered, talking to the ether. It's a dumb thing to talk about. Ether doesn't even exist. Like, "Hi, giant scrying spaghetti monster. Hi, ether." Why are you talking to the ether? He reached for a black marker and uncapped it. He turned to a small calendar on the wall and made a huge X over that day's date, September 13th. Then he dropped the marker on his desk and returned to his notebook. He lost himself in the nearly indecipherable writing and worked his mouth as he read silently. Guy can't read without moving his lips. Just saying. "My God," he whispered, paper thin. "My Lord in heaven, it's true." He turned to a bookshelf next to his small cot of a bed and grabbed another duct-tape notebook of scattered scrawls and swam through its writing for a moment. He nodded slowly, understanding. Suddenly, he snatched up the black marker, jumped up, and ran to a map of the world. He found Nicaragua and circled the island of San Juan del Sur next to it. Then, very carefully and deliberately, he wrote next to it in perfect block letters the following. He didn't write the following. I'm going to read. It follows after. Yeah. He wrote in perfect block letters the following. "The beginning of the end." I don't know why he did that. He could have just went and told somebody. Mackenzie stepped back from the map and stared at what he had written. Probably had to move his lips to read it. He threw the marker on the desk and shook his head. "Ah! It's cool." He threw the marker on the desk and shook his head, letting out a sigh that would have broken hearts if anyone had heard it. It was the sound of a man who had once and for all given up. He sat down on the bed and began to cry. Father Mackenzie's eyes flooded and he wept and wept until he was exhausted and his eyes burned and his head hurt. That's a lot of hurting. Of eyes. This guy's like, first he like doesn't lubricate him at all because he won't blink, and now he's like, cry, 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 and now they hurt because they're crying too much. He has to make up his mind. See an optometrist. A moment later, the sadness left him and he became empty. The priest wiped his eyes on a blanket and walked out of his room. Man, there's some mood swings with this guy. Just like, I'm fine. I'm not saying he's crazy, but he's got a serial killer room full of scrawlings, and he's writing notes to nobody and talking to ether, which, you know, he should know Watson and Crick proved that didn't exist. Or no. Is that Watson and Crick? Or were they the DNA guys? Those dudes back there with the lasers. You know who I'm talking about. Ether. Not a real thing. He made his way downstairs and bypassed the chubby secretary taking the back door that led towards the church building. You gotta pick on the lady's weight. I mean, come on. She's trying. She's eating rice cakes, hopelessly, but gotta be mean about it. Mackenzie walked up to the big King Kong-sized doors and found them open as always. God never takes time off, so the church never closed. Okay, first, two things. One, hope King Kong shows up and, like, stands next to the doors so we know what size they are. It's like 30-foot tall doors. I mean, wow. I guess that make doors that big, but seems kind of excessive. And secondly, God totally takes time off. Genesis 2:2 has a whole Saturday to himself after he creates the world. This guy's not reading his Bible. Inside, the serene atmosphere that pervaded a place of contemplated worship was in full effect. It was pin-drop quiet and empty to boot. Father Mackenzie walked down the aisle and made the sign of the cross as he approached the elaborate set-up altar and fanciful description of Jesus on the cross. He knelt at the foot of the altar, brought his hands together as he regarded the image of his Lord and Savior. "It's too late now," Father Mackenzie said, his voice devoid of life and emotion, which had been bled out of him through his tears. "It was inevitable. There was really nothing we could..." You know what? No, I'm going to read it devoid of life and emotion. "It's too late now. Father Mackenzie said, his voice devoid of life and emotion, which had been bled out of him through his tears. It was inevitable. There really was nothing we could do, was there? We couldn't have prevented this even if we tried, and now your children will die, and all because your shepherds have failed you, because they would not listen. But I tried. You know I did. They would not believe me. They thought it was rambling madness, probably because of your creepy broom with serial killer and duct tape things. That I was sick in the head, but I was right, wasn't I? In the end, I was right. I cannot gloat because I really had wished I was wrong and crazy, but now... Father Mackenzie, said old Father Eugene Cox, a fit priest with gray hair clinging to his scalp and an uncanny resemblance to Jack Nicholson from certain angles. Cast in the movie here. Are you okay? Does he have emotion now? He says, oh, hello, Father Cox. I'm just going to say he has emotion back now. He's not talking to God anymore. Oh, hello, Father Cox, Mackenzie said, getting to his feet. I'm glad you're here. I'm in need of confessing, and I wonder if perhaps you might be able to help. Of course, Father, come this way. Cox led him to the confessional box and slipped into his portion as Mackenzie took the supplicant spot. The smell of pine wood and leather brought back many memories for Father Mackenzie. He considered the confessional a cozy and inviting place, even if sins were slayed and absolved there on a regular basis. He would often sit in there for hours, enjoying the smells and the silence and the darkness. People be standing in line outside like, come on, dude, get out. He's just like sitting there like, and they want him to confess. This guy's a jerk. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned, stated Mackenzie. It has been a week since my last confession. Okay, go on, Cox prompted. I want to clear the slate. It's very important that I do that. There are things that I haven't confessed before that I will do so now because I need to be absolved completely. Of course, Father, go on. I have wanted people dead for not believing me. Is this a frequent feeling? Unfortunately, yes. The Bible teaches us to turn the other cheek, Father Mackenzie. But I don't take kindly to being ridiculed, and I have fallen under too much of that to simply turn my cheek. It's made me a very angry person at times. I understand. Go on. I have disregarded my duties as a priest to follow selfish actions. Like what? Like my research. Sometimes it has consumed my professional life for the worse, and I am sorry that I let it get out of hand. I see. May I ask what kind of research you were doing? Does this guy not know? Like, Father Mackenzie does not seem like the kind of person that doesn't tell you that he thinks the Bible predicts a Sharcano apocalypse. I mean, he clearly knows this was coming. He's looking at the thing going like, oh my goodness, I predicted it. But he didn't tell this guy. Screw this guy. It doesn't matter anymore. We're all going to die anyway. Yeah? I can still stand to be polite. I'm going to die one day. I'm going to be a jerk about it. What does that mean, Father? I've wasted too much of my breath explaining already, Father Cox. The bishop has grown deaf to reason over the years. The archbishop is only interested in raising his own prominence. This whole church has become a floundering fish in the desert, dried and useless. He didn't listen to the crazy dude who said there was going to be a volcano full of sharks. And he has a serial killer room. And I keep going back to that because he has a serial killer room. And it's creepy. It's enough to know we're all doomed. Better you don't know how. Well, now I'm very intrigued, Father Mackenzie. Maybe we could grab a cup of coffee and talk about this research of yours at length. Yeah, tell the dude about the apocalypse. He's like, why don't you tell me? I'll believe you. Went to the wrong people. This guy probably has media connections and stuff. But no, you're going to be like, no, I'm done. Just absolve me and get on with it. Very well, Cox said. Are you sorry for the sins you've committed, my son? Yes, and the ones I will commit in the future especially. Well, if you're sorry, don't commit them. And what kind of a cop-out is that? You're like, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to have to kill you. I feel badly. I feel so badly. Then I absolve you, in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Sounds cool saying that. I'm going to be a priest. I'm going to say some Latin stuff. Spiritus Sancti. Cox chanted as he made the sign of the cross through the mesh window. "Say 10 Hail Marys and thank you, Father," Mackenzie said as he blustered out of the confessional. He didn't finish! Now you're not going to get, maybe you had to say like 5 Our Fathers or something. You're not going to have your sins absolved. You're going to go to hell, and then Sharcano's going to take over the world because you didn't listen for the guy to finish his sentence. You got to wait for the guy to finish. Cox threw open his door and stepped out to see Mackenzie walk away in a huff. He wanted to call out to him, to stop him. He felt as if he should say something, but thought better of it. Maybe he needed his space, to think things through. In any case, he would approach Father Mackenzie during dinner tonight and pick at his brain a bit then. If he hasn't had him all synapses fired from sticking his tongue in a light socket, then he might not have a brain to pick. Moments later, Father Mackenzie was back in his room. He was on his knees, chanting the Hail Marys like a fiend. He ran the words together, but he didn't miss a single one. He'd had a lifetime of practice. He climbed up on the wooden chair by the desk. The extra height allowed him to get closer to the noose that he had rigged to hang from the ceiling. He tugged on it to make sure it would hold, slipped his head through matter-of-factly, and kicked the chair away. It took poor milk-stained Father Mackenzie 20 minutes to die. No one heard a thing. Well, you gotta start from higher, and your neck breaks and you die faster. You don't want to choke out. That sucks. And also, why would you go through the whole thing of confessing? If you're a Catholic, I may be wrong about this, but I'm pretty sure you get guaranteed going to hell from suicide. So, why would you bother wasting your time confessing if you're just going to commit suicide? Wait for the Sharcano to come. It's inevitable death anyway. I mean, how are you going to fight against lava sharks? You're a priest. The power of Christ compels you. And they're like, chomp. Whatever. That's the end of this chapter. I love it. I actually really like this guy. Like, he's just like, I knew it was coming. There's nothing I can do about it. I give up. Like, he's not a douchebag like Mick Cathcart in the previous chapter, which I'm very happy about. And there's some other cool people that are coming up later. Anyway, yeah, check out Sharcano. We've got the link to the book in the description there. If you click through on that, you can get your very own copy of this. You don't have to wait for me to read it or whatever. And it's awesome. You gotta check it out. It's amazing. Go do it now. Until next time, I'm out!